All right, Ian Garlic back here, and today we're going to talk about growing a CPG brand, specifically snack brands, food and beverage. It's a tough thing to do. A lot of people have gotten stuck, and we talk a lot about marketing, but one of the biggest levers is actually knowing your numbers, knowing how to where to spend the money, how to spend the money, how much money to spend so you don't run out of money. And that's why I've got Abby on from the CPG CFO. Tell us a little bit about your company before we get started.
Yeah, so we are boutique finance consulting firm serving exclusively CPG companies, and it started whenever it was just me. Hey, all I want to do is work on CPG brands, do forward-looking strategy, and so started that a couple years ago. I'm an advisor with and mentor with SKU. I'm on the board for DFW CPG, so we've got a lot of irons in the fire, but it's all CPG all the time here.
Um, and we're going to talk about this company today that you helped grow 80% in a year. And I know it's not all you and it's not all the numbers, but knowing your numbers gives you the confidence and we'll talk about that today. Having someone who can talk to you about the numbers and, like I said, be forward looking so you're not just going in every direction. I think it's so important because most businesses do die by too much opportunity instead of not enough opportunity. But before we get into that, how did you decide on CPG? Like, were you eating some snacks? You're like, I want to help these people with their numbers.
Well, my mom was always like super into healthy food when I was growing up. My husband and I, very nerdy about all that over the years. So I had that personal interest in the better for you space. And then um, I worked cross industry for many years in accounting, technology, business, right? And I worked in all these different companies, and I really liked about CPG was like I said, the emerging brand, better for you aspect, but also just the complexity, super super complex when it comes to inventory, manufacturing, revenue recognition. There's all these things that are really complicated. And I think that really attracted me that there's like a right answer, but it's super complicated to get to. And that was fun for me.
And it's interesting, right? Because that's not what most CPG founders like about it, is it?
I don't think so. Pretty sure not.
Yeah, I mean, most of us get in business. I mean, most people I know get in business not to know the numbers, not to, you've got your guys that are like, private equity that love the numbers and just want to make a lot of money. But most of these people don't get in business for that reason, do they?
No, no. CPG founders and really everyone in the CPG industry, for the most part, just loves the energy, like the energy and bringing better products to market. And it's something I sometimes I'll say like we get to eat our clients' dreams. Like it's like kind of crazy and funny, but like we get to be in to touch and taste people these ideas that didn't exist, right? Like they came up with it, it didn't exist, and they made it, and they're so excited, and you're so excited for them, and want to bring it to the world. It's like it's just super fun.
That's really cool, and it is. It's fun. I mean, I love working with companies that and helping them grow too, and like telling their stories. And it is fun to help them realize their dreams. But was there one moment you're like, because it seemed like you were really confident on the CPG space, but what was there a moment or a story that you're like, this is the time, this is the thing I want to do,
Oh, but ready to like quit my job?
or yeah, quit your job and work just with CPG.
Yeah, I mean that was all part and parcel because I just felt like I kind of hit a limit where I was going to be more, it's more red tape politics, knowing how to navigate the system and herding cats, and I didn't really feel like I was going to be improving from a technical perspective, right? I was going to be like learning so much about the world around me anymore, and it was more just like operating within the company. And so it was like wanting to grow myself more, and then also wanting to have a bigger impact. um, and I just, yeah, I just knew that I was I don't know. I just got to the point where my brain like would not work on other industries. I was like, does not compute. I don't care about this stuff anymore. This is all I want to do. And I just kind of got on that track in my mind where, yeah, I was like, well, am I going to build it here where I work, or am I going to build it for myself? And I just decided to build it for myself.
Love that. It's really cool to build that for yourself, but you're CPG. Why? How is it? You said it was so complicated and so different. What are the big differences working as a CFO for a CPG brand versus a manufacturing company?
It's a lot less straightforward. So you're working for a company that's just purely manufacturing. You can kind of look at the books and pretty much know how they're doing, right? You can just look at it. With a CPG brand, it's a lot less straightforward because you may be investing in marketing. The way that you know that you're doing well with that is not necessarily just on the P&L, right? Because you're investing in marketing in 1 month and you expect those customers to come back in future months, right? So it might be next month, the following month. As long as you have the, customer lifetime value to back up that investment in marketing, and you're going to get the contribution margin from that sale, you can make the investment, right? As long as you have the cash, but it's not going to show up in your P&L. It's not going to be like, oh, you have this asset now of these returning customers that are going to come back. That's not GAAP, right? That's not accounting. That's not how you do it. Even though as a founder and an operator that is, what's going to happen. So you have to really dig in behind the numbers into like Shopify, into Amazon. And there's a ton of strategy that goes along with that in terms of, what are you going to require? How many are you going to require customers to buy? Are they allowed to buy just one? Do they need to buy a case when they buy D2C? Because like shipping just one is like cost prohibitive. Those types of things, right? There's a ton that's not just on the face of the financials. I've been involved in a program before where they do a little thing where they'll load the brand's financials into like ChatGPT or some sort of AI and the AI always says that they are headed down a bad path. They're like, what is going on? You are not profitable. You're investing all this money. This is bad news. Stop what you're doing. And I'm like, okay, we can't listen to that. It's oversimplifying it.
So AI is basically telling every CPG brand to shut down.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, you have negative equity. What are you doing? But they're startups. That's normal.
It's normal, yeah. And so before we move forward and talk about this story, explain the difference. I know this is going to be a little complicated between an accountant, a bookkeeper, CFO. What are the differences?
Okay, so ideally you have a CPG experienced bookkeeper, and they're going to book what you're doing, right? Like they know how to do it. That's gonna be like, it's like looking in the rear view mirror, right? It's what happened before. An accountant, I mean, bookkeeper, accountant sometimes get interchanged. An accountant is just going to have a higher level of knowledge around what are the technical aspects of the accounting and making sure that it's definitely right? Like ideally you do have someone like that that's overseeing your bookkeeper. So that would be, I would think of maybe like a controller. So that's the person that makes sure that everything is right. The bookkeeper kind of does the day-to-day transactions. The controller accountant makes sure everything is correct. That's all rear view mirror, all of it. The CFO is ideally looking forward. If your CFO isn't looking forward with you, then you need to maybe look for a new CFO. That is the most important aspect of a CFO. Yes, I do know how accounting should be performed, and I can look at your books and give you tips and whatnot, talk to the controller, talk about technical accounting issues, revenue recognition, all that. That's not really where my biggest value is to a brand. The greater value to a brand is, what do we do? How much can we spend on marketing? Should we continue to invest in this channel? How are we doing so far, right? And like I said, we do look beyond just the pure financial statements to answer that question.
Yeah, and so now let's talk about this brand, the snack brand that you worked with, because we were talking about it before, and they did have a CFO, but it was a generalist CFO, correct?
Yeah, they worked with an organization that works with all different industries, and the company that they worked with, it wasn't necessarily that the problem that they were a generalist. It was more just that they brought a very standardized approach, and they weren't really willing to be flexible at all with the brand. So, how much involvement do you want from your finance team, right? We're very flexible on like, do you want to just have a call? Do you want us to take this on? Deliverables? Yes, no. Strategy call and step away. You call us back when you need us. Like, we can do it however you want. Where these people were like, no, we have to do everything, finance, accounting, all of it, and they only do it one way, and they really didn't have a great bedside manner on why they needed to do certain things certain ways. Because I didn't necessarily disagree with some of what they were doing, but they didn't explain it to the brand in a way that they felt like they could own it. They didn't feel like owners of their own finance and accounting, and that's what they didn't like.
And when you don't like, obviously it's uncomfortable not knowing and owning the CFO, knowing your finance as a business owner. And a lot of us, a lot of them are flying blind out there. But then when you hire someone and they don't explain to you why, what does that lead to? Like, if what problems does that lead to if you, as an owner, you don't feel like you own those finances?
Well, for them, they didn't implement the things, right? Like, they're not going, founders are not going to do something if they don't understand why. They have way too many things on their plate to be implementing recommendations that they can't see the value in. And
Yeah.
so helping founders see the value in recommendations that we make, because we are advisory, is like our whole job. So if you have someone in a seat, in a finance seat especially, who is telling you things and you don't trust them and you're not doing what they're telling you to do, that's a waste of your time and money.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can see too, it's not just a waste. It's like it freezes you from doing stuff, doesn't it?
Hmm. Yeah, especially, or maybe you're going to make the wrong decision because maybe their recommendation is right, but you just don't believe it, and so then you don't do it, but and that leads you to making a wrong choice.
Yeah. I mean, it's like being a part of a team. You have to trust your team, don't you? And your leadership. And when you say comprehensive, and it's like you would think that being comprehensive is a good thing, and taking over everything all at once is a good thing. What are the, what are what are the problems there with that?
Well, it depends on the brand, because some brands want to outsource everything. They have somebody who does it all, and that's great, right? Like, if they feel like they understand it, they talk to those people, they're integrated, it's all good. That they bring that comprehensive approach. Some brands want to own the accounting in house. A lot of times I do see it's because they're manufacturing themselves. And so they have a lot happening right internally. And they need somebody internal who knows what's going on. And so we're able to just bring the finance piece, right? But it depends on the brand and what they're wanting, um, and what direction they go.
Um, and and when they go to get tools, right? And everyone goes to buy tools. Did this brand, were they using specific tools? Are there tools that you recommend before coming into you, or can someone come into you having just spreadsheets?
Yeah, they can definitely just have spreadsheet. Honestly, the I have never seen a CPG finance software that wasn't a spreadsheet. So I've not personally seen it, right? I know it, I'm sure it exists, right? Like the enterprise solutions, maybe, but for startups, everything that I've seen is spreadsheet based. So don't be afraid if you just have a whole bunch of spreadsheets and you want to come talk to us. Um, yeah, we're all about spreadsheets because there's so much flexibility that you need. Everybody's set up a little bit differently. So, yeah, I feel like the best approach is spreadsheets
Interesting.
for
Yeah,
startups.
it's funny because where everyone's sold all these softwares and everyone wants to buy a software, and I find this too with like agencies and like CRMs, and everyone wants a complete CRM. Like sometimes if you don't have a ton of prospects, a spreadsheet's a pretty good approach, because like you said, you have the flexibility. But did they use any type of modeling software or anything like that?
Yeah, they did have some software that they were using that, was spreadsheet based. But they found prior to moving to us that it was too focused on D2C metrics. It was really, really great for D2C, but the retail, the rest of the channels and their own personal retail and also their wholesale business, it just didn't do a great job of addressing the way that you need to forecast in those
Mm.
channels. So that was one drawback.
And when we talk forecasting and not be able to forecast in those channels, what does I because I feel I see this a lot in businesses where they can't forecast, so then they don't want to do the right marketing, or they don't want to do marketing, they hold back, and it really prevents growth and it prevents satisfaction. So like, what are some of the things, the differences in forecasting in those other channels?
Well, when it comes to D2C, realistically, you can get a lot of what you need from like Shopify, right? You can get it, it'll come from Shopify. Shopify can tell you the average order value. Shopify can tell you customer repurchase behavior. Shopify can help you with all of those things, right? And so you can look at the seasonality there, and you can chart it all out. What is your typical customer acquisition cost? Take your direct ad spend divided by that. Okay, that's the number of new customers. And then you can predict returning customers based on historical data, right? So anyway, it can be pretty formulaic. Retail, on the other hand, is completely different because you've got all these different types of stores. You've got all these different velocities, number of stores, number of SKUs in the store. There's just a million different variables to look at. And I've not found that a really templated, inflexible approach works for
Mm.
that ever.
And so there's all these problems. What was the original reason that they came to you? What was going on in their business, that brought this snack brand to you?
They didn't feel like they had the finance acumen on their team that they wanted to have. They didn't understand how to forecast. They didn't understand what to prioritize throughout the year, how to negotiate with the bank, what was important to them. They didn't have a lot of like contacts. So we work with other experts around debt. Like we're not like specifically debt experts in house, because there are people that do that their entire career. So we work with those types of people. And so we were able to plug them in with the right experts to get exactly the right information that they need at exactly the right time and apply it to their business in the context of their business, in the context of the industry that they're in. And that's the difference between us and just like ChatGPT, right? Because it's like ChatGPT does a great job, but it doesn't necessarily understand all those different contexts and the lay of the land of what's happening right now in the industry. And you can give it your balance sheet, right? But it has a hard time putting all these different lenses together to say, here's what you do today. Here's the top 3 priorities for the next 2 weeks. Then let's talk again.
And also ChatGPT might tell them to shut down too, right?
Yeah, like we talked about earlier. They're like, what's going on?
um, so real quick, just a little clip here. Was the bank calling the debt part of it, the reason they came to you, or was that happening afterwards?
I think it was part of it. I think that was
Okay.
part of why. But
Uh,
I don't know because I think the bank called the debt like after they hired us. But he had
okay.
reached out like months before. That wasn't the whole reason that they hired us,
Gotcha.
but it wasn't. Um, but yeah, just funding in general is always a huge opportunity for CPG brands.
So let's talk. Okay, we'll start back here. So, when you don't negotiating, talking, telling the numbers is all part of getting funding, right? And we know that funding is important for CPG brands. What are some of the with this person with this brand? What were some of the issues that they had with their funding?
Yeah, so it's really around storytelling, right? Often. Um, what is the financial story of this brand? What are they doing? How can we demonstrate traction? Um, like I said, CPG brands are unique because there's so much of what's happening that doesn't live in the financial statements. So their community building on Instagram or TikTok or somewhere like that, that doesn't show up, right? So you have to kind of look at that. You can bring that up for investors and say, look, we've got people across the country that will buy our product in your store if only it were there. So look, there's all these people that are interested in it and want it and are engaged. Um, Showing your velocity, right? Even though your revenue number may be kind of small, if you're in a group of stores where you're just knocking it out of the park with your retail velocity, your units per store per week, it's like, oh wow, this product is doing amazing. Like people are buying it so much more than they're buying the 2 products on either side in the same category. So that's what we're really trying to show to no matter whether it's in the financial statements through capitalizing assets that maybe a tax accountant wouldn't think to do because they're just trying to reduce your net income, making sure that you're capitalizing assets in the financial statements, but also when you're going out and trying to get debt or you're trying to raise equity funding, making sure that we are telling that story in a way that is, of course, honest, but is shows the full picture of your brand, how much traction it has, where it's going, how much people love it.
And with this brand, how did you help? What are some specific things that you did to help them prepare to talk to investors?
One of the things that we've done is do some what if scenario modeling with different clients that we've had around what if this piece of equipment that you bought wasn't just immediately expensed by the tax accountant. You would have more assets on your books. You would have more equity in the company. What if you were to capitalize not only your direct materials in your inventory, but also your direct labor, manufacturing overhead, right? Those are all part of an asset. And if you are expensing them every month, that means that your equity goes down, right? You have a lower profit. And so being able to model those what if scenarios for people like investors is how we can demonstrate what would it be like if we were to have done this, or is there a way that we can show the financial story in a way that is more favorable to the brand but doesn't require them to actually capitalize their direct labor, for instance.
Um, all right. So now I want you to kind of bring up with this. I want to get stay specific too with as much as possible we can with them. So when you go into this, just as much as possible, stay specific and say with this particular brand we did this.
I
So
know. I was like struggling with the confidentiality on that one. I was like,
well, yeah, you can keep it broad. We looked at this, and this is what happened. We looked at this, because you don't have to tell numbers or anything like that.
yeah, that's true. Okay.
It's just at a high level, this is what you did. With this, and so coming back, so a lot of times, it's not just getting investors; it's keeping investment, right? And some things happened with this company too, right? Where they were losing investment or getting their debt called.
Yeah, so they had a situation with the bank where the bank was realized that they didn't want to be in the startup funding business. Were more so looking for immediate profitability, and that is, you have to have investors and lenders who are aligned with the business that you have, and so making sure that they're aligned with your growth goals, right? Like, because you don't want investors that are going to think that they're going to expect you to be a unicorn, and you're not, right? And you're trying to kind of like be like slow and steady wins the race. So growth goals, profit goals, right? Making sure that they're aligned there, and that you're not disappointing anyone. I mean, everybody, it's possibility of disappointing people all the time, but making sure that what you are telling them you need the money for is achievable, and that you actually plan to do that, so that when it does happen, ideally it does happen, that they're happy, you're happy, nobody's feeling hoodwinked.
um, well, I want you to get into a little why this. You said that the bank didn't want to be in that, but like, how did you fix that?
um I don't even know. I'm struggling with what I mean, without being too specific.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
I mean, I can tell you, it's like we talked with them, we helped them with the story, we connected them with debt experts so that they got more comfort around what's happening in the market. We talked him back from the ledge so that he wasn't just like so upset, that is like, yeah, people do this. Sometimes it's like kind of like they're just like they're just saying, we're calling your loan, and like, will you pay it back? Like, and if you say, wait a minute, I let's talk about this, right? As opposed to just feeling like you immediately have to go out and find the cash to pay it off right away. Um, Banks are people too, right? And they most, I mean, everybody at a bank has a job, right? They have people telling them what to do. So if they are told to, call your loan, they're going to do it. And it's like, well, let's just see what happens. Maybe they'll pay it back. Maybe they'll refinance it. And if you aren't ready to do that and you say, wait a minute, let's slow this down, that can work sometimes.
gotcha. Um, and when you can you give some specifics into because with these companies, they have to not run out of money, right? How are you making sure they don't run out of money? Where's the most common places like a company like this would run out of money?
I would say the most common place is growing too fast. So signing
Okay.
up for retailers and you don't understand the terms, distributors, and you don't understand the terms, you don't know how expensive it's going to be in with them, you don't understand how long it's going to take them to pay you. So it's like a timing thing, right? A growth and timing thing. And then you're having it's all about we call, the conversion cycle is what accountants call it. It's from the time that you buy the inventory until you actually get paid for that inventory. That's your conversion cycle. So that can be 3 to 6 months, even. I mean, I would say so, depending on, sometimes people's uh, inventory is coming on a ship, from
Yeah.
China or something. And so it the I would say growth, uncontrolled growth is the probably number one. And there's a lot of factors that come in there, right? Inventory purchases and trade spend and all those things, but the uncontrolled growth is can be a killer.
Interesting. And how, like with a company like this, how do you predict for it? How do you prevent that from killing the company?
We are really careful. Well, one way is we're really careful about committing to trade spend, right? When we have trade spend, we want to be accruing for it, right? Um, when we ship that revenue, we should make those shipments and record the revenue. We should really be recording it at a lower level if we are expecting to get half chargebacks later. So making sure we're not signing up for too much trade spend, that it's strategic, um, and then having a cash cushion, right? So not spending everything we have all the time is really important.
Gotcha. And when you do this, how are you deciding like what's how are you with specifically with CPG brands like how to spend that trade spend, when to do it, how to do it, is there a time to go full bore on it? How do you figure, like with this company, how do you figure out when to spend it and how to spend it?
Well, we have conversations with them around like what sort of decisions are they making. We're not trade spend marketing experts. We're not,
Yeah.
that's not our thing. But we do talk to them about like, hey, are you doing like OIs versus scans? Or we if you're shelf stable, there's a possibility that a distributor could bridge buy. They buy a whole bunch when you're on deal, and then they just sell that over the course of the entire period, right? Instead of, you would think they would only buy what they need in that period. No, they're going to buy more because then they can hold it. And then if it spoils, they'll just charge you back for it, so it's no problem for them. Um, so yeah, I mean, just talking through some of that high level strategy, but we also connect them with other experts, experts in trade spend, experts in pricing, things that we're not like, is not our niche. And so that's really where we shine, is bringing in the right people at the right time, the right knowledge at the right time, so that they get exactly what they need when they need it.
And so now, like with this company, obviously it grew, 80-90%, which is amazing year over year. Um, how important is lining up investment then for that growth and that continued growth and moving beyond it? And how do you know when to do that?
Right. Yeah. So really, yes, you want the equity dollars to be invested in growth. If you can use debt, if you can make debt work, the cost of debt, and if you have the ability to pay it back, then that can be a really great option, so that you're not, I've said before, like, equity is not a credit card, right? You don't want to take in equity funding when really you just got this little hump that you need to get over, and you could, use some short-term debt to get over that hump. So the equity is really, it should be getting you to your next phase of valuation, right? It should be pushing you up to a higher valuation. It should be investment in growth, in marketing, all those things, so that you are able to make it to that next level where you could raise at a higher valuation and get a better deal.
And so with the snack brand, what was the point where you're like, yes, we need to go out and get that equity funding? And how did you prepare them for those meetings?
We know that we need equity funding when the additional debt that we could consider getting is just way too expensive, or we know that we're not going to be able to pay it back, right? And we also know that we're growing. So it's like, it's all those things together that make it, check the box. Yes, it's okay to go ahead and start raising money. You also want to know that how much money you do need, right? So that's where the financial modeling, cash flow forecasting comes in. Then the way that we help them prepare to talk to investors is helping them prep that story, right? Going back and looking at the financials. Do they have any hangups? Are there things that they feel like they have to apologize for? Sometimes I talk to founders about that. And it's like, hey, you don't have to apologize for that. Look at this. You were constrained by your supply. Like, don't feel like you have to apologize for these lower levels of sales. Or, maybe we can look at capitalizing more of your manufacturing overhead and direct labor in inventory, right? So that pumps up your assets and your equity. We look at that storytelling, right? And what are you going to say to the investors, and how are you going to show to demonstrate traction?
And what, from a standpoint of, like, is there a checklist that you use to prepare for that investor meeting? Tell me, because obviously asking for money is once again not the thing that a CPG founder goes into business for, right? They don't go into the business of asking for money. And I was just talking to a friend who's, founding a brand or bought a brand, and he's like, I just hate asking for money, right? But I'm like, but he has to bridge the gap. How do you prepare them mentally to ask for it and to do it well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I, I, one thing I didn't realize that I was going to be talking to founders about was the confidence and the mindset around it, because they're like, wait a minute, I don't have POs in hand for this. I can I say this? Is this okay? I'm like, yes, you can say this. This is sales, right? This is what you're planning to do. This is what you want to do. This is what, this is what you're executing against, right? This is your plan. So it's okay. Like, you can put this in your financial model. You don't have to have POs in hand. Um, and the we do talk to them about mindset, right? The confidence. We coach them around that. But then obviously there's the know your number side. So I got my shirt on. And we do have a handout around that. It's like, it's really not that far off from like Shark Tank, real life, right? So they want to know your numbers. They want to hear about your traction. They want to hear about your revenue growth. They want to hear about, lifetime value of a customer. They want to hear about your gross margins, right? They want to hear about all those things because they want to understand how healthy of a business is this, and is money really your biggest problem?
Interesting. Interesting. And if it's not, what is the biggest problem?
Your product, your packaging, your right, like that. It may not be that you're just, like this race car just sitting and all you need is fuel, right? Like you may need to build that car and make it a little nicer before it's ready to kind of jump on the
Yeah.
track.
Yep. Yeah. And so now tell me a little bit. This brand has grown 80%. What's going on in their business now? What's it like now? How has this founder transformed?
They made it through the high season. So, we're seeing debt getting paid, short-term debt getting paid down. They're feeling really confident going into the next year, just feeling like they can, um, make some big moves to get more funding coming in, right? Like, so I think there's a big sense of relief after making it through the past, 12-ish months.
Nice. And also, you know, when when this not just the relief, but tell me a little bit about, when they get a hold of their numbers. Because I know, like, I've talked to companies that, when they get a hold of their numbers, when they can talk to investors, what does that do for them confidence-wise in growing their business?
Knowing their numbers, yeah, they feel like there's a path. They feel like there's a path in front of them that they know the next steps to take, as opposed to, when they don't know their numbers, they don't understand their, contribution margin in D2C or their customer lifetime value. They're like, not only do I not know how much money I can spend to acquire a customer in D2C, I don't even know if I should be in D2C. Right? So it's like they're just kind of like not really sure what's going on or what they should do or how much they should spend on all these different things. And so um yeah, that's they seem to really appreciate that when they know what to do next.
Yeah. And what's most fulfilling to you about what you've done with this company?
I think seeing them be able to, it's what's most fulfilling about working with this company is seeing them take the additional steps in the maturity, right? And feeling like they're ready. Like a year ago, they weren't ready to take the types of steps that they're taking now. Um, and just leveling up as a company and starting to scale. Like that makes me so happy because obviously as they scale, more options open up for, you know, exit eventually, right? Personal wealth, all these different things that are the real goals that we're trying to help people achieve.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. So, if someone has a CPG brand and wants to get there, wants to level up, wants to be able to talk to investors, and also make sure they don't run out of cash, what's the first steps to working with you?
You can go to our website, cpgcfo.com. We have a YouTube channel, the CPG CFO. We're on Instagram. We're CPG CFO everywhere, TikTok. Um, I post on LinkedIn frequently, and it's hard not to find us. But yeah, you can submit a form on our website and reach out to book a call. My team will help you with intake about what exactly your needs are and whether we're the best people, point you in the right direction if needed, and help you out.
Awesome. Awesome. We'll put a link to all that in the show notes. Abby, thanks so much for being on. I really appreciate it. And make sure to go if you, especially if you have a CPG brand that you're growing, and you're spending money on ads, you're investing all this money and spending all this time. Knowing your numbers is the key to growth and to growing this business. All right, so Abby, if someone does want to work with you all, and obviously everyone's in this CPG space is looking to get ready for investors. What's the best way? What's the fastest way for them to get help and best way to learn a little bit more about your services?
Yeah, so the best way to prepare for an investor call, of course, we're happy to have a call with any interested brands, but we have a free resource on our website, the Know Your Numbers Guide. And that is a ton of questions that I've seen investors ask brands so that you can prepare for those meetings.
Awesome. Awesome. So we'll put a link to that Know Your Numbers Investors Guide in the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's a link down below in the description and a link in the comments. We'll put a link everywhere. And of course, you can probably connect with Abby and she'll send you a link too on LinkedIn. So that we'll link it all up. Well, Abby, thanks so much for being on and giving us that awesome resource.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. Great to see you.
Great to see you too. And we'll see you all soon.